Okay, we're having some technical issues, but I'm here now. Hello, David. Okay, we were having some technical issues, but we're back. Yeah, there was an issue with my laptop, so I went onto my phone now. I'll wait until a few more can come in, and we'll get started. Okay. Okay, we're running over a bit of time now, so I think we'll get started as we are. Okay. So today we're going to go over sleep and what we call circadian rhythms, which is basically your 24-hour, your time frame for when you go to sleep, when you wake up, but also sort of your body processes. And it doesn't just relate to sleep. It's the cardiac system, digestive system, urinary system works on a 24-hour clock. All the cells involved and all the organ systems have that clock sort of innately in them. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about understanding the role of sleep, consider the impact of sleep deprivation on performance, as well as sleep deprivation on injury as well. So why, if you're not getting enough sleep, it's going to become an issue. So one of the most important of the circadian rhythms is your sleep cycle. So let's talk about what happens in a healthy one. If we're talking about someone has 8 hours sleep per day and sleeps at a regular time interval, then you're looking at someone who's got sort of the best bodily rhythm. That's what circadian rhythm is. So if someone went to bed at, say, 11 p.m., there's an entire process that goes on in their sleep and after they wake up, where hormones are elevated in certain ways and decrease in others to help better someone's healing, performance, etc. So when you fall asleep, within the first 2 hours, melatonin gets released. And melatonin is a hormone released by the pineal gland, which is on the back of your head. And what it is, it's the hormone that signals the body to sleep. So this gets activated by the absence of light. So if someone were to be on their phone all night, that's the reason why they can't get to sleep, is because that melatonin kickstarter doesn't happen. So once melatonin is released, about 3 hours, an hour after that, bowel movement starts to become suppressed. And after that, you then have what's called restorative sleep. And in this process is where your body starts to go back to its normal rhythm and where it's relaxed the most, basically. When you start off, you have what's called REM sleep, which is called rapid eye movement sleep. It's where you're not quite asleep, you're like a half deep sleep. Once you then get into the deep sleep, that's where the healing and body process starts to happen, where lymphocytes get released, which is lymphocytes are white blood cells. They're part of the immune system. For example, B cells are what produce the antibodies to fight off infection. So if you're not getting enough hours in that deep sleep, you can see how you're not getting enough white blood cells released, and then you're not healing properly. This deep sleep happens at about 80% of the entire night cycle. And the rapid eye movement should be for about 20% of that. If it's above 20%, then that's where people aren't getting enough of that deep sleep. Deep sleep, that's going to help them with their immune system. So you can only get the benefits of body repair and regrowing at that non-rapid eye movement stage, so the deep sleep. So let's say you've gone through a few hours of deep sleep, and then you're ready to wake up at 7 a.m. At that point, melatonin stops to get released. So on the opposite side of that, that's where cortisol increases, and cortisol is like the opposite to melatonin. It's the stress hormone. It's your built-in alarm system. It's where caffeine and stress can both increase this hormone. And as you can see, as you probably guess, you're going to have more of this hormone, which means you're going to stay up for longer and stay awake for longer. That's why people who have high stress are unable to get enough sleep. So once you've done this, once you've woken up, you then have the peak testosterone release, which is a hormone that is in men more than women, but it's the one that is going to keep you up, awake, and gives you the energy. If someone's had from 11 till 7 a.m. sleep, that's that 8 hours good sleep, then after that you're going to have a faster time to high alertness. So you're going to be able to be active during the day for at a longer period and at a earlier time than if you didn't have a good sleep, if that makes sense. Once you pass 12 noon, you're then going to, at your best coordination, you have your best reaction time. That's why some people say, they want to study or you're most productive during that lunch time. That's because it's true. It works with your circadian rhythm, your rhythm of sleep. After that, so let's say just before 6 p.m., you're then at your peak strength and cardiovascular efficiency. So when you're in that period, it's also said in research that's when you should be active the most, because you're going to get the most performance out of it. You're then, after 6 p.m, and then between then and melatonin, not really much happens. So melatonin then gets released at 11 p.m, and then you start that cycle again. So that's sort of like a summary of the entire sleep cycle and everything, all the hormones that are involved, and when you are at your best and at your worst, right? So now, what are the main purposes of getting this good sleep? They're beneficial for your learning, which is not just good in a health setting, it's good just in general, right? Motor skills are improved, so that's why it's good to get enough sleep. So if you're with us and you're doing physio, you're going to get the best out of that physio if you're getting good sleep. Thirdly is hormonal control. As I mentioned, loads of hormones in there. You're going to get the best control of those hormones if you get enough sleep. And also, finally, there's appetite suppression that happens with enough sleep, which can be beneficial for those with weight disorders, etc. Let's first talk about the learning. So you have better memory and recall if you have enough sleep. Your memory consolidation, so you're able to pull things from memory better. And you can purposefully forget things if you have less than 6 hours sleep. Your learning ability is cut in half if you have less than 6 hours sleep. As you get older, there's that decrease in deep sleep percentage happens. So you get a decrease in sleep quality, and that's why you see as people get older, their short-term memory gets worse, because that's what happens. They don't have as good learning when you get older, and because you don't get enough sleep. In terms of a rehab setting, your motor skills are improved. So there was a study that was done on the NFL Combine that found NFL, which is American football, and the Combine is like the where the players are basically auditioning for the NFL. They found that physical improvements were linked to sleep quantity and quality, and reaction times with a deeper sleep. And that is even worse, for example, if you have less sleep, than if you were to be drinking alcohol. It's that important for you to get enough sleep for your motor skills. So that's sort of kind of puts into perspective how important good sleep is. Thirdly, the hormonal control. In men specifically, you can have decreased testosterone. As I said, in the cycle, you get testosterone that gets released if you have enough sleep. That gets decreased if you don't have enough sleep. And estrogen gets increased in males with chronic sleep deprivation. So that leads to changes in levels of fatigue, adipose tissue, which is where you see around the pecs. So if you don't have enough sleep, then you can get fat deposits in your pecs. It's like that important for you to get it. You decrease your muscle mass. There's a risk of Alzheimer's. Your libido gets decreased. So it's very important for you to get enough sleep for your hormonal control. Finally, there's the appetite suppression. If you don't get enough sleep, then leptin, which is an appetite suppressor, gets decreased, and ghrelin, which is an appetite stimulant, gets increased. So if you don't get enough sleep, there's a link to obesity and increased body mass index compared to people that do get enough sleep. So it just shows the purpose of sleep is important in so many ways of your life, and so many things in your life rely on you getting enough sleep. Now let's talk about healing specifically if you have an injury. So when you don't get enough sleep, your pain perception is worse. So sleep deprivation is shown to precede an increase in pain. So what happens is you get what's called hyperalgesia. You perceive pain to be a lot worse than it actually is. So a lot of the time where clients come in, I'm going to sort of take into and ask them special questions about their sleep if they have that higher pain threshold. If they're a 9 out of 10 under pain, where they perceive it to be 9 out of 10, that could be linked to having poor sleep. I'm going to ask them about their sleep after that. But when it comes to injury itself and wound healing, there's delayed healing to be seen when someone gets less hours sleep. And if you have an irregular sleeping pattern, so on some days you get more, some days you get less, as in more, like more than 8 hours and less than 8 hours, that's shown to have a decreased effect in wound healing. There was a study that was done on wards, so hospital wards, and they found that if you have increased light and noise in the hospital wards, it then affects people's rhythm, so circadian rhythm, and they tend to have a longer inpatient duration compared to people that are in wards with less light and you're able to sleep better. And also there's increased mortality rate in wards that have that too much light and too much going on. So it's shown to have a direct effect on how people in hospitals are able to heal. So on top of that, if we're talking about your injury as well, I did a live previously on hypertrophy, right? So sleep actually affects that as well. What it does, it alters a few hormones that are involved in building muscle. IGF-1 is changed, cortisol is changed, as I mentioned before, and testosterone is decreased. So then you get a cortisol to testosterone ratio that's off. That means that you can't build muscle better than people that are getting enough sleep. So if we're talking about injuries as well, we've got to think about the risk of injury. So people that are not getting enough sleep are more prone to getting injured as well. They even found that with people that have increased cardiac events, it happens at a point in the year that's specific, which is when that spring clock change happens. You get a 1 hour less sleep, and in that weekend you find out that people are then more prone to having heart attacks. So it can affect people's lives that much, just a 1 hour change in sleep. If you think on top of that, with immunity, you get a decrease in cytokines which are produced and released during sleep. That means that you're 4 times more likely to catch a cold in people that have 6 hours sleep compared to 7 hours sleep, just 1 more hour. And on top of that, there's an increased incidence of cancer with those who've got sleep deprivation. Brain atrophy as well. So people who've got brain problems and brain damage. Changes in the chemical balance can happen, and changes in physical structure of the brain can happen as a result of lack of sleep. So there's illness and injury risk that can come with you not having enough sleep. Now let's move on to the final point, which is how can you change that? How can you get better sleep? So it's not just about getting enough hours, it's also about the rhythm. It's also about when you're falling asleep. You've got to make sure that you're getting enough deep sleep in the day. And what you can do to increase that is have frequent naps when you can. Make sure you have a regular routine during the day. As I said, the clock involves multiple releases of hormones at certain times, and for you to be able to get the best out of sleep, you need to be having a regular routine during the day as well as at night. So what you want to do is you want to set regular waking and rising times, and you want to avoid day-to-day changes of more than an hour. Avoid being lazy on your day off. Blue light emitting devices is shown to have a very good, a positive effect on sleep, because that blue light that comes from your phone doesn't affect the release of melatonin as much as red light. The other way around. So if you have too much red light coming through, then that's going to affect melatonin release. You can go on night mode on your phone. You can have in your house, have dimmers, change the light bulbs. Room temperature also affects sleep. You want around 30 minutes of direct light exposure a day and no more. Avoid having too much caffeine, hydrate, and you want to make sure that you are timing your fluid intake and electrolyte intake, which is in a lot of energy drinks, etc. And you want to have that in the evening preferred. So higher electrolyte intake in the evening is better than during when you just wake up or in that time period. So there's a lot of things that you can do to benefit you getting enough sleep. So to conclude, sleeping not only affects you mentally, it can affect you physically. It affects your hormones more than you actually realize. And the best thing that you can do for making sure that you recover from injury as best as possible is to get enough sleep. And a lot of the time that's put on the back burner. It's easy to do that because if you're very busy during the day and you're struggling to sort of keep up with things, sleep's the first thing that goes. You want to have an opposite mindset for that. And that's the best way that you can help to maintain a good rhythm during the day and a good sleep cycle. Okay? All right. Thank you for coming, and hopefully you got something out of this live. And have a good rest of the evening. I'll stay here for a couple of questions if you have any. And let me know if it was good live or not. Thank you very much. Good, about half an hour. Good. Okay. There's no questions. Thank you guys for coming, and have a good rest of the day. Bye-bye.